Now, since having a partner that is 6'4", whose name is Hunter, is not going to mean that you're going to be happy in your relationship, what does? Well,
okay, so the problem with this is she's right, because having a partner who is 6'4" and who's called Hunter is not necessarily going to make most women happy, but it's not going to stop women from going for that guy. Hey guys, Troy Francis here. Welcome to my channel for another video. In case you don't know, I'm a dating coach. I've worked with clients all over the world for the past 10 years, teaching them how to get the best out of the tangled web that is the modern dating scene that we all inhabit. And what we're going to be doing today is reacting to a video by Lana Blakely, who is a woman who has, I think, about 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube. Her channel is pretty big. She has a predominantly female audience, and she's giving dating and life advice to women. Let's have a look at this video, which is called Apparently We've Been Doing Dating All Wrong, and let's see what she has to say and whether this advice is good or if it doesn't hit the mark.
So research says it's easy to predict desired romantic partners. It's not, however, easy to predict good romantic partners. And this suggests that many of us are dating all wrong. So if you want to make better dating choices, don't take it from me, take it from the experts, and keep watching.
Right, we're going to follow the science. We're following the dating science. Here we go.
So Samantha Joel, a researcher, wanted to explore the question, can we predict successful relationships? So she and a big team of scientists conducted 43 studies looking at more than 11,000 long-term heterosexual couples and how happy each person was in these relationships. One thing that they found was that these were the 8 traits that were the least predictive in determining romantic happiness: physical attractiveness, height, occupation, race and ethnicity, religious affiliation, sexual tastes, previous marital status, and similarities to oneself. And what's
Okay, so she's looking at this study, and they've looked at long-term couples, and they are assessing what causes happiness in those partnerships. So I guess when Lana is counseling young women predominantly to how to date, it's going to be a situation of saying, right, so these are some of the things that you need to look for. These are some of the things that aren't going to actually make you happy. And it's interesting, things like physical attractiveness and height are at the top of that list, because obviously we know that certainly height, I mean, women are certainly very concerned with height. Physical attractiveness, I don't want to go down a complete black pill route with this. I don't believe it's the be all and end all for women. I really don't. But it's certainly a factor, you know, and we'd be foolish to suggest that it isn't. So it's going to be interesting to see how she constructs this argument, because I think we can intuit already where she's going to go with this. Let's see.
The thing about that is that these are the traits that are deemed the most desirable according to data from online dating sites, where conventional attractiveness is the #1 predictor of how many messages someone gets.
Right, okay, so those are the things that are desirable, but they're not necessarily the things that make someone happy.
Dating app. Even things like having a sexy name, which is subjective, increases the chance of getting more right swipes. And I hate to admit this.
Maybe then, if you're a guy watching this, maybe change your name on the dating apps to Chad or something. And if you're a woman, like, I don't know, what's a sexy female name?
I thought of that when I read that, and I was like, if someone is already attractive and their name is Jacob or Hunter, it just kind of does something to a lady's mind. But
okay, well, there you go, guys. A little bit of free dating advice there. Change your name to Hunter on the dating apps. Hunter. And you could be on a date with Lana Blakely.
What the data shows is that although there is definitely a correlation between those traits and desirability, there's almost no correlation between those traits and happiness. So there is a clear distinction to be made between desire and happiness. Now, to give you the abstract of these studies. Basically,
I mean, I think we all kind of know that already, don't we? I think we all, men and women, intuitively know deep down that just because someone's hot, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be an ideal longer-term partner. It doesn't seem like we're breaking massively new ground here, but let's see what the study says.
Research cannot tell you whether or not two people will share a happy life together. Only life can tell you that. But
nice little sound effect there. So, I mean, unfortunately, the reality is the majority of people don't share a happy life together. Whether they're good looking, whether they're not good looking, whether they're tall, whether they're not tall, we know that at least 50% of marriages tend to end in divorce. We also know that 80% of divorces are initiated by women. There are also studies to suggest that happiness, even within long-term marriages where the couple has stayed together, is low. The happiness is not high in those marriages. So long-term monogamy is tricky for everybody. So whether you go into it and think, well, I just want somebody who is attractive and super hot, and that ticks those boxes and I'll just go with that. Or whether you do what I suspect she's going to say, which is you need to look for those deeper qualities that make a long-term partner. The balance of probabilities is still that it's not going to end up running the distance anyway.
Still some very interesting findings that can absolutely transform the way that you pursue romance in your life. But before we get into that, the first thing that you should do is go to therapy. Whether you are happily single, happily married, therapy can really help you uncover and unfold parts of yourself that you simply cannot do on your own. I understand myself so much better after going to therapy.
I'm just, I'm smiling because I'm just thinking, I was having a conversation earlier with Christine from the Audacity Network, actually, and we were talking about therapy, and I was saying, I mean, I suppose the very hardcore sort of masculinized response to therapy is, no, never mind that, just do 200 press-ups, do 75 burpees, and just get on with it, man. And there is skepticism in some quarters, particularly the more red-pilled sort of quarters of the internet. There's skepticism about how well therapy works. I think it can work. I think it can be helpful. It certainly helps me. I did some for a while. I was talking about some stuff from childhood, and it certainly kind of helped me to clear the wreckage of that stuff. I don't know that it is a cure-all, though. I don't think it's necessarily gonna, you do some therapy and then you end up getting a happy partner because now you're sorted out in yourself. I don't think it really works like that, unfortunately. I don't think it's cause and effect quite as straightforward in that way, but let's see.
Which ultimately has helped me make better, healthier choices.
Stop the cap!
Now, since having a partner that is 6'4", whose name is Hunter, is not going to mean that you're going to be happy in your relationship, what does? Well,
okay, so the problem with this is she's right, because having a partner who is 6'4" and who's called Hunter is not necessarily going to make most women happy in itself, right? I mean, she's attracted to that dude, but does that mean they're going to have a happy relationship? Probably not. But it's not going to stop women from going for that guy. Like, it doesn't matter how many videos she makes about this. It doesn't matter what she says even in the rest of this video. It's not going to stop, because women, like men, are going to go for those things that they are attracted to. They're going to go for the things that they are biologically pulled towards. And if women are attracted to guys, which we know predominantly, you know, women like guys who are tall, or they like taller guys anyway, and they like guys who are physically attractive, and apparently who are called Hunter, then we can listen to all this stuff intellectually and we can think, oh yeah, that sounds good, that sounds laudable, I need to look for these other qualities. Is it going to change female behavior? No, because you can't logically convince somebody to desire something other than what they desire. And that's the problem with this kind of dating advice. Okay. The problem, I think, with a lot of this dating advice, we'll get into this later, is that what they fail to sort of remember is that dating really, it's supply and demand. It's a marketplace. Okay. You've got to understand the dynamics of the marketplace, and then you've got to act accordingly. So it's not so much you desire what you desire. The woman desires the 6'4" guy called Hunter. Okay. The question is more, can you get him and can you keep him? Okay. Let's put the happiness to one side, because as we said, most marriages are not going to be happy anyway. Okay, so putting that to one side, then the thing is, as a woman, are you actually of the caliber to attract that guy and then to keep him long term? I think that's more the question that women watching this need to be sort of considering.
Some things that play a role. So one thing that did seem to impact the happiness of each person in a relationship was how happy they were before the relationship. So let's say we have two people, Luis and Peter, and if they both answered yes to questions like, were you satisfied in life before you met him or her, research showed that they would be significantly more happy in their relationships, which supports the old saying of you can't be happy with someone unless you're happy with yourself first. So basically, you're more likely to be happy with someone long term if they are already happy in most areas of their life. Another thing was a growth mindset. So basically, being with someone who is interested in improving themselves and learning new skills, etc. And then the thing about all of this is that it's quite difficult to know these things when you are on dating app.
It's a growth mindset, incidentally, is interesting, isn't it? I think women are particularly interested in growth mindset. And what does growth mindset really mean? Well, kind of translated, it means this dude's going places. He's probably going to be able to accrue more resources in the future. So I'll stick with him, you know, I'll treat him as a project, and hopefully my investment will pay off 10 years down the line when he's a CEO or he's made bank. Okay. That's often what growth mindset tends to mean. What tends to happen in relationships, in my observation, is that there has to always be a journey as far as women are concerned. So it's never sort of, okay, we just enjoy each other's company. Let's just enjoy that and not think about it. There's always an end game involved as far as women are concerned, and unsurprisingly so, because obviously women often, most of the time, want to have kids. They have a relatively brief window in order to do that, and so their nature means that they tend to be more ruthless, and it tends to be more of a sort of, right, okay, where's this going? What is the growth in this thing going to look like? Where are we going to be in 5 years' time? Whereas guys, I think particularly guys who have options and they're not so bothered about those things, guys are more happy just to ride it out and just be like, yeah, she's cute. Well, let's just see where this goes.
Or just starting to date someone. It's things that you are going to figure out as you get to know someone. So let's look at what else there is in determining present and future relationship satisfaction. One thing that was very high on the list was perceived partner commitment. So what they found was that in the time leading up to people marrying, ever perceiving one's partner to be less committed than they were, even if the other partner was perceived to be even just a little bit less committed, that was one of the best predictors of unhappiness in marriage. So basically, if you feel strongly that you want your relationship to last forever, but you don't perceive your partner to feel the same way, well, you got some pretty big problems.
Yeah. Well, obviously that's going to be a bummer, isn't it?
Was appreciation, so feeling lucky to have your partner. And then we have sexual satisfaction. How satisfied are you with the quality of your sex life? We also have perceived partner satisfaction. So how happy you think the relationship makes your partner. And
yeah, I mean, it all makes sense, doesn't it? What I struggle to see yet, but maybe she's going to explain, is how, okay, I understand these things are going to make me happy if I want to be in a long-term relationship. How do you screen for those things when you're out there in the dating market?
Have conflict. So how much or how little conflict there?
Because if I go out in Mayfair and I meet a woman and then, we get on and we start something, right? How am I going to know that she's going to be appreciative of me? How am I going to know that she's going to be committed? How am I going to know that there's even going to be sexual satisfaction? I suppose her argument actually is that, well, you've got to kind of determine that in the earlier stages of the relationship. I guess that's the thing, isn't it? You're kind of, the early stages of the relationship are about vetting the other person.
Is in the relationship. And now, since we know that looks and all of that basically play no role in relationship happiness, we might be thinking, well, then it's, personality that we should be looking at, right? Actually, personality doesn't matter very much either. See, what's more important is this: the characteristics of the relationship itself. It's the dynamic that you build with a person. So what the findings tell us is that the person we choose is not nearly as important as the relationship that we build. So basically, we don't find the perfect person, we build a good relationship.
But I don't want to be pedantic, but surely the characteristics of the person influence the nature of the relationship you build. I mean, if you pull a meth addict who's sitting on the street in San Francisco, then the nature of the relationship you build with her is going to be qualitatively different than the relationship you probably construct with Lana Blakely, who looks like a very sophisticated young woman, right? So I think it seems hard to divorce those two things.
By setting up the conditions that will allow the relationship to flourish. In Joel's own words, the dynamic that you build with someone, the shared norms, the in-jokes, the shared experiences, is so much more than the separate individuals who make up the relationship. And now they're not—
Well, yeah, that's true. And that's why it's so painful when you break up with somebody. That's why breakups can be so hard, because you're not only losing that person, right, but you're also losing the kind of the shared thing that you constructed together. So I do relate to this bit because, yeah, you're in a relationship with somebody and you kind of make this other entity, which is not you and it's not her, it's the relationship. And yes, absolutely, shared jokes, shared norms, shared experiences, that's all part of that. And of course, if you then break up with that person, then all of that just disappears like smoke.
Claiming that the personalities of the two people involved in the relationship does not play any role in the overall satisfaction, because it does. So for example, each person's attachment style matters. Now, if you're not familiar with attachment styles, attachment theory, I highly recommend reading the book Attached by
This is actually fascinating stuff. I do find this really interesting. I've seen some criticisms of this as a theory, but I do think it holds weight. I mean, my attachment style seems to have gone from I had this weird attachment style before, which was sort of, I forget what it's called. It's like confused attachment or something, where you're somewhere between really wanting them and not wanting them at all, which is avoidant. And I feel like now I've switched more towards avoidant. I've become this completely degenerate bachelor where avoidance is like the raison d'etre. But it is really fascinating. I mean, what it seems to come down to saying basically is if you're super like well grounded and you know you've got no sort of issues in terms of pair bonding and stuff, then you're going to be fine, and everyone else is fucked, which is a little bit unfortunate, but that's just how it is. I guess that kind of speaks to what she said before when she was saying, well, people that are happier before tend to be happy in the relationship.
I will link it down below. It is one of the greatest books that I've read on understanding relationships and myself and just people in general. And also, speaking of attachment styles, therapy really helped me navigate that one because it can be quite complicated. And now this study did look at long-term relationships, and some people were wondering, you know, what can people who are in the initial dating stages take from this? And here is what Joelle said. You want to look for a partner who seems genuinely interested in you, who is good at perspective taking with you, and who seems to be responsive to your needs.
Yeah, you want to look for those things, but is that what the average woman at the pool party in Vegas is going to be looking for, right? Is that what the girl at the Cancun phone party is going to be looking for? Probably not. I mean, there's this sort of disconnect, isn't there, between long-term goals and long-term satisfaction or long-term reward versus short-term pleasure or short-term gain. And most of us, I think, tend to fall down by picking short-term pleasure, okay? And this is men and women, right? And I think, you know, women get criticized a lot in the red pill space because, oh, these girls, you know, they're going for the wrong types of guys. They're just going for the chads. You know, what about the average dudes who may be very nice dudes? Why are they giving them a chance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? But I think, you know, most men, to be frank, would probably go for the more attractive. If they had a choice between two women and one of them was significantly more attractive than the other one, they would probably go for the more attractive one as well. Again, dating is a marketplace. It's about demand and supply. It's about what you're able to obtain in that marketplace with the capital that you bring to the table, okay? So yes, it's very nice to make a video like this and say, well, you should be looking for these other qualities because this is the stuff that's important. Is that actually going to change people's behavior? I don't think so, because we all kind of know this stuff already. We don't really need a scientific study to tell us.
Someone who makes you feel understood, validated, and cared for. And
can you imagine when she shot that B-roll? It's just like, yeah, I'm just going to walk it between these trees and just kind of look wistfully into the distance. Can you shoot me on the iPhone?
Couldn't agree more. What do you think?
I agree, Lana, is what I think. I do agree. I think that those characteristics probably are more important if you're looking to get into a long-term, you know, monogamous, or I guess even non-monogamous. If you're looking to get into a longer-term committed thing with somebody, then yes, of course, those things are going to be important. Of course, looks fade. Looks don't really affect well, they don't actually affect the quality of the happiness that you experience with that other person. Of course, it's about the nature of the relationship. Of course, it's about the sort of the shared culture that you two build together. Absolutely. Completely on board with that, Lana. I sign up to everything. However, the problem, as I say, is are people actually going to act on this? Now they've seen this video, they're like, oh, Lana Blakely told me that actually looks and height aren't important. What I need to be going for is somebody who is empathetic towards me and who understands me and takes time to share my worldview and to see things from my point of view and to really kind of get to know me on that deeper level. Are most women going to be thinking that? No, they're not. They're probably going to watch the video, go, yeah, that was very nice. They'll give it a like or whatever. And then they're still going to pick out the Chad in the nightclub. Now, we can't really, I'm not criticizing women for doing that because, as I say, we're all just really following our biological urges here. But women need to consider, are the dating choices that I'm making, are they actually leading me to the kind of life that I want? And we all need to focus somewhat more, I would contend, on the longer term goals rather than just that short term, well, the guy at the phone party looked hot, so I just did it kind of thing. Because all of that is not helping any of us. The dating marketplace is now probably harder than it's ever been before. It's particularly tough, I would say, for men. I think men do have a very tough time, particularly guys who are sort of deemed as average in that marketplace. But it's also tough for women because women are having a problem securing and then staying with the guys that they want. Okay, so women have this availability of sex. It's not hard for women most of the time to obtain sex. It's harder for them to obtain and retain commitment, all right? So that I think if you are a woman and you're watching this and you're thinking, well, why is my dating life not going so well? You need to consider these dynamics and think about the guys that you're interacting with. Are they actually guys that you're going to be able to retain if that's what you're looking for on a long-term basis? Or are you maybe shooting a little bit high in terms of who you're targeting? And what do you actually want long-term? You know, there you go. It would be nice if everyone took Lana's advice. I don't think they will. But anyway, we will leave it there. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this channel with all of your friends so we can help repair modern dating once and for all. This is Troy Francis. See you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.